The waterfall thing's interesting because there's sort of, at least in my experience, as far as public land hunting, a lot of duck hunters sort of have this cavalier attitude, it seems, where they're like, I'm getting to my point. I don't care who's there. That's my spot. And there's no duck out there I want that bad. To me, it's kind of like, up here, in the Mississippi border waters between Minnesota and Wisconsin, the fishing season's open all year round. In Minnesota, obviously we have seasons. In Wisconsin, we have seasons, but there it's open. And so when the walleyes move up to spawn below the dams on the various pools, it's a candy store if you like catching walleyes. But you're going to be out there and it's boat to boat to boat to boat to boat to boat in this current and everything. And I just look at that and I'm like, if you told me you're going to catch 30-inch walleyes all day long, if you did that, which is the equivalent of shooting 180-inch bucks all day long, I'd be like, I don't want it. And it's the same thing. Like, I don't want to sit in a cattail slough or, a point of cattails and look over and see some dudes 40 yards away, trying to shoot the same ducks. It's just a weird thing out there.
Yeah. And I guess the only thing I'll say for it is it like gives you a lot better perspective when you go places that aren't like that. It's super competitive here. So, and there really aren't that many ducks and geese anymore. So, when you go out west or to, just Kansas or heck, even go over to Missouri, you're like, and you have birds respond to your call. It's a great change of pace. So, there is something to be said for that aspect of it.
Yeah. Have you ever hunted Wisconsin for ducks?
Nope. I've upland hunted up there, but I've never duck hunted. I've hunted Michigan and of course, like all the Great Lakes states except for Illinois are pretty the access compared to Illinois is just, it's just not even comparable really. So I went up to Minnesota a couple of years ago, and did some crow hunting and the guy I was with just kind of showed me around all the, the public areas in Minnesota. I'm like, he's like, yeah, this is my spot for wood ducks. This is my spot for mallards. I'm like, oh man, there's just the access is just phenomenal when, in comparison to here.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked that, because if you start looking, I primarily hunt northern Wisconsin for ducks. I do hunt around here in the Twin Cities some, but my best hunts occur over there. And I've got, waypoints marked on beaver ponds on public that I've never even been into yet because I don't need to get in there. And to me, I have lakes around here I could hunt that are like that Illinois situation you're talking about, where it's like, I got one buddy who's just diehard down here, and he will go out and sleep. He'll sleep in his boat overnight to be the guy on the point, because a lot of them, there's only certain parts of the lakes you can hunt because of the suburbs and all that stuff. But it's a weird world to go 2.5 hours over into Wisconsin. And then it's a different kind of hunting because it's a lot of ponds and sloughs and stuff, but I don't see people. I hear them on the major rivers, and I hear them on the bigger, the flowages and stuff. But on the little water I hunt, I'm like, I walk in there, it's not like there's going to be anybody else. And, so you shoot fewer ducks, I think, probably, and have less action, but you have it to yourself. And so like for dog work and taking new people out, like I can take my daughters out and not be worried. There's something to be said about that.
Yeah, that's like a big, I just took my 6-year-old duck hunting for the first time on his birthday last week. And, luckily I have access to a private, wetland through a guy that, we do some work for, just helping him out or whatever. But man, if I was just relegated to private land here or public land here to try and take my 6-year-old duck hunting, for number one, we probably wouldn't be successful. In terms of shooting anything, maybe, but also it's just, it's hard. Like, you have to walk a long ways, most 6-year-olds aren't going to want to walk a mile and a half to go get skunked.
Yeah. No.
Maybe they'll do it once.
Most 36-year-olds don't want to either.
That's right.
Yeah, duck hunting with kids is a tough one, man. If you have good weather, the duck hunting sucks, but your kids aren't miserable. But if you have crappy weather and the duck hunting's good, then your kids are sitting out there in the rain, and it's just a tough. It's hard to do. I mean, I'm struggling with that. It's nice because it's in a controlled situation. You get into a blind or whatever, and that's where you're at. And so I like that part. But I want to get my little girls more into the dog work and stuff. But taking them upland hunting is really hard. And so I'm just struggle with that right now and how to get them involved in that kind of hunting.
Yeah, it is tough. Like I guess the one thing, like in states that have teal seasons or like teal wood duck combo seasons, those are always a good time to get them out. Early Canada goose, but then I guess again it could be like 90 degrees out too. So, but I mean, if you do it, if you do it in the morning and do it, quick, it can be pretty enjoyable. But yeah, it is. It's tough. Like in terms of if you don't have access to a private blind, I mean, it can be hard to want to get a young boy or girl out there. I think I do kind of want to. Like we go squirrel and rabbit hunting a lot. Honestly, my parents have 80 acres of just farm of half farmland and timber about 40 minutes away from my house, and that's really enjoyable. Because you don't have to be quiet. They can. I mean, my boy will sing the entire time, and of course we won't see a squirrel, but who cares? Like we had he had fun.
Yeah, I mean it's. There are ways to do it. It's just it's a pain, and I shouldn't say that. It just takes you have to have a different attitude because it's not about you. It's not about killing stuff. It's about them. It's the same thing like fishing with them. It just your considerations, your motivations, everything changes, and it's it's not about going out and shoot a bunch of squirrels for yourself anymore. But when you have a good day out there with them, it's awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean when I took him duck hunting, I let him take his Nerf gun, and we had a greenhead like come in and do it perfect, and I was like, okay, let's get him, and we both jumped up and shot, and he was like, I got him, it was great. Like I went out and grabbed it and brought it back to him, and like he could tell like how happy like I was. It was more satisfying for me. Like I had never been on that end of it as an adult. I've taken like some adult onset hunters hunting for the first time, but I really haven't taken that many kids that have never done it before for the first time. And like to have it be my own son was just like I didn't really know. It kind of gave me, like I lost my dad when I was 10, so it kind of gave me that connection of, what he must have felt like. And like that stuff's real important to me because I don't get that very much anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I like about it too is, you get kind of jaded, you get kind of used to this stuff. And then you take a kid out and, they've never seen that before. Like they've never held a teal or watched a dog retrieve a bird or, I just recently in October, I shot a doe with my daughter in the blind. And that's the first time I've taken them deer hunting before, but I was like never going to shoot. I didn't want them to see an ugly death. So it was just like to spend time, drinking hot chocolate and hoping to see one. But I felt like this year, okay, they're old enough, they can handle it. And just like to see her reaction to a doe, like a close doe and the shot and the whole thing. It's like a good reminder.
Yeah. They have such a unique perspective too, because, I guess I grew up in a time, and I guess I still see it today, where like, if you don't know your shit, you're not, you haven't reached some high level of hunting. And I just don't think that, like those people don't really know about that, nor do they care. Yeah. I mean, and well, they shouldn't, because I mean, that's not what it's about. Like that was something that it took me a long time to realize that, because I was kind of surrounded by a lot of people that thought that way, and I never really had talked to um, anyone who didn't think that way. So it's been good for me to kind of see different perspectives, because it's made me just think more than just about how am I best gonna kill this animal today, which is good. I mean, it's good for me. It's good for anybody that is willing to think about the game we hunt in ways other than just killing it, in terms of tactics or whatever.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because people want the answer. Like they want the point A to point B, no dead buck to dead buck thing, or no limit of greenheads to limit of greenheads. But like the secret is, like, you got to work your ass off, especially if you're out, if you're not on a phenomenal place, you just do. You're gonna have to do it to be consistent. Like, you can get lucky, it can break your way once in a while. But the other thing is if you go into it, because what you just said there, like, I have people reach out to me who want to be on this podcast, and they'll say, I've been public land hunting to a high level for a long time. And and it's like, and I don't mean to shit on them, but I'm like, that sounds so weird to me. You know what I mean? Like it sounds, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? And I'm just like, if you go into this with that single-minded purpose, like, I'm killing a big buck and this is my everyday thing, I always wonder, like, if you're enjoying it, okay, like, but be honest with yourself. Like, is that making you happy to be that guy, like the Terminator out in the woods? It's like, somewhere out there is that buck. Because I find for myself, I kill an awful lot of bucks on public land, and a lot of times it happens, in a way where I'm like, I know I'm going to go in and have fun sitting this spot. I don't know if a big one's going to come through. I don't have a hit list. I don't have cameras out there. I don't know, but I just go into it like, this is going to be, I'm going to enjoy this. Like, I just did this North Dakota hunt, and the weather was good. It was good rut weather. And I'm like, I don't have anything to do. I'm out here by myself. I'm going to go sit all day. I brought a book with me. I'm like, I'm going to just enjoy this. I shut my phone off for most of my hunt. And, when you go kind of with that attitude, like, I don't go in like, this is my plan. That son of a bitch is going to die no matter what. I'm going to find him and I'm going to kill him. I have a different mentality about it. And I'll tell you what, I have a lot of really good hunts now having that attitude. And a lot of times deer walk by that I can shoot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's, you were talking about somebody hitting you up because they're an accomplished public land hunter. Well, like, okay, well, like, what does that, like you said, what does that mean? Like, if you're in a, because people will grade you on that too. Like, are you an accomplished public land hunter where there's tons of public land? Or are you an accomplished public land hunter in Pennsylvania? I mean, so, I mean, it's just like, I'm totally turned off by like that kind of mentality. It's just like, it doesn't, like, cool. Like, you're a great hunter. That's something to be proud of. Like, but that's not everything, I mean, have you given anything back to the sport? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with your meat? Are you, just doing this for you? There's like, so there's tons of different questions, to think about, just other than, man, I kill really big bucks on public land.
No, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, I know. Man, I get it. And it's weird. Like, I feel, what you mentioned about, what's your personal situation? Like, where do you live? Where are you killing these bucks? Like, that, I take that into account too. I'm like, man, if I talk to somebody who lives in Pennsylvania and they kill big ones, and then they head down to Ohio and they kill big ones, and they drive down to Kentucky and, they're crossing borders and they're doing it everywhere, I go, that's interesting. That's somebody that probably knows what they're doing. But even then, it's like, well, cool. You know, like
Yeah.
that's awesome. But like, it's even as like passionate as we are about this stuff, it's still just like a part, you know, it's like, I always look at, you know, Cameron Haynes is an example, right? So if you listen to him, he's like, I get in shape. I work out, you know, 24/7, 365 days a year to kill elk. I'm like, really? Like that's your motivation for being in shape? Like, and I don't believe it. I think he's just playing that role. But
Mm-hmm.
I like people will ask me like, well, you know, you quit drinking. Why'd you start working out? I'm like, cause I want to be around for my kids. Like I don't,
Yeah.
you know, it's an awesome benefit to hunting to be in shape. But it's like, man, it's just hunting. Like there's so much more to life, you know, and it's such a weird thing. I like I've become, maybe this is just me, but I become like hyper cognizant of how fleeting hunting success is. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like when I go out, like when I killed that last buck in North Dakota, I was flying high, man. Great deer, public land, worked my ass off. I felt good. Like I was like, man, I filled every tag I got this year. I am the frickin' man. And then a week goes by and I can still look at it and like be happy about it. But I already know my feelings about it have changed. Like it starts to fade. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, that was awesome. But what does it mean? It doesn't really mean that much. You know, like I love having
Yeah.
the meat in the freezer. I love having the rack on my wall. But by next year, I'll be thinking about the next thing and the next thing. And so it's like, you know, this stuff is important, but it's a weird important because it goes away.